Hello everybody and welcome. I've now been running my silent server with the chassis totally covered, and the problem with the arrangement is that whenever there is too much CPU demand, the system gets really hot and throttles down. It was a problem, for example, when I was running my Civilization 5 dedicated server, and the performance was not really great. So what I did was to start running it with the chassis open, and that improved the temperature a lot. So here now you'll see that it's a Xeon E31260L, and that's a quad-core processor with 8 threads. It can turbo boost to 3300, as you can see here. I'm currently running at 1600. The load is very low because I run a VM and a syslog server, and nothing much goes on here. So it's using 5.4 watts out of a limit of 35 if I'm not mistaken, and I currently have a temperature of 52 to 3 degrees. What I'm gonna do now is, I'm sick of running this chassis open because of the dust, and closed like it is now, as mentioned, not good for the temperature. So I'm now removing the chassis cover and modify it. Alright, so I have removed the cover around 2 hours ago, and the CPU utilization is the same because I haven't really touched the server. We have here it's consuming around 5 watts, but the temperature now has fallen to 42, 41, 42 degrees. So the server is here and I'm ready to put it back. After a few months I visited a friend who has a drill that can go through metal. And well, let's install it back and see what happens. As you can see here, thankfully the screws still align. I was afraid that I put too much pressure when I was drilling and they will not align anymore. My position measurement was not perfect, so I was hoping that I would take more of the heatsink here. It was a little bit difficult to measure, and I was expecting the heatsink to be further away from where it is, but it's enough to ventilate this, I think. And as you can see here, the power supply has its special place. The server is on for a few minutes, and as you can see, if you don't really add any loads to the system, here we are using 4.5 watts only, the temperature doesn't even go up. Yeah, it went to 31, now it's back to 30, and the heat sink seems to accumulate heat when it's hot, and if you never get to add this heat there is nothing to go away. So most of the time the server is going to have very low CPU load. It's good enough for me. Now let's start a stress test and let's see how far the temperature goes up, how fast, and if it can hold the CPU without throttling down. Well, it's going to actually throttle down sooner or later, but let's see how long does it take until it actually throttles down. We're starting here with 42 degrees and we are going full 33 watts, and that's the maximum allowed for the CPU without overclocking. I don't know why it's not turbo boosting though. That's something that I have to look into later. After 15 minutes of the system being up, 8 minutes I think after I started the stress test, you can see that the CPU is throttling down, and it seems to be able to sustain 24 watts out of 35, and the clock is down to the base level or even a bit under, which is good enough. I'm not expecting this load to hold for such a long time in the way I intend to use the system, so again, I'm designing this system for my usage, right? If you're gonna run this 100% of the CPU all the time, you're not gonna go for a passive cooled solution. So I'm happy with the results now after modifying the chassis. Let's see how fast it goes down after I disable the stress test and at what temperature it stabilizes. After 30 minutes without any load, we are back at 50 degrees, and if we stay there with ups and downs depending on load, so between 50 and 60 degrees, I am happy. I'm gonna review the BIOS settings, see if there's anything else I would like to do there, and since I'm moving, I'm gonna do most of my development on my Mac Pro, and this server is gonna be just to run some experimental services, piggybacking on my fast connection here, or I'll probably develop things on the Mac Pro, test them there thoroughly, and only put them here when they are ready. This machine now only has gigs of RAM, and that's not enough. I'm hoping to get it up to 32 in December, before Christmas, but until then, it's just gonna be a temporary thing. The last phrase or two didn't make much sense, but I'm not really good at speaking as I think, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.